We'd like to welcome each and every individual to podcast for Voices of Integrity for Mental Health. And today's going to be an interesting one. And it's probably going to be a little bit disjointed. It probably is going to be a little all over the place. I woke up this morning, Tim, with like my mind racing. It's just like and yesterday morning too, same thing. It's like it's connected into trauma, to triggers, to healing. It's almost like there's almost something that I wonder if it's, almost like it gets hard coded into our brains, like hardwired. It's stamped. It's like it's branded into our brain. And once that happens, I wonder, I wonder if it almost goes into the little brain, like on the video, it goes into the little brain, and it's almost like we get out of control. We almost go into a fit of rage or anger. I mean, it's like we lose control of who we are, it would seem like. And I don't know how to connect the dots on that. Any thoughts you have, Tim?
I think that um I've noticed a lot lately with trauma is it's weirdly ingrained into our body. Is like trauma anniversaries or days of trauma. Sometimes you don't even remember something had happened to you long ago. But then your body just like it feels off that day. It feels weird and you're just like you're trying to figure it out and then you remember something happens and so it's like a trauma versary for your body. So I think that goes into the little brain is like, how do we use that to one, get past that weird feeling and create it into like almost like a great feeling is like a celebration, like with the anniversary of John, like the first the day before, the day after, and the day of, my body just like it goes into like fight or flight almost. And so like trying to figure out how to celebrate life, celebrate trauma within the body and not just play the it is what it is on the outside and your body takes over, if that makes sense.
It does. When Ben and I went to Tennessee, he said, I can see a lot of benefits of the death of Jonathan. Like he could see, like he was healing. He was like, he hates it. It's still hard. It's still painful, but he can, like, somehow he can see that there's benefits happening from it. And that's the same thing that I experienced at 19 when my future father-in-law, where he sexually abused my wife when we when we were engaged, and the pain that hit. But then I started healing and started seeing, okay, there's benefits to those things. Like, and I think, how do you know when you've really healed? It's almost like we were in family counseling, I don't know, probably 20 years ago. I think it was 22 years ago. And I related everything that, happened in our family. And the guy's like, I've never seen a family like this ever, ever. Like you guys in 23 years of practice, and he had 3 PhDs in, family counseling, psychology. And a part of me he said, it's almost like I visualize you guys are an oil platform. Your family is an oil platform out in the middle of the ocean. There's 4 pylons going deep into the bedrock, of under the ground into the base of the sea, and 4 cruise missiles hit you all at the same time. This was before Jonathan died. This is 22 years ago. This is before things really got crazy. And I didn't know, like, I felt good. I'm like, okay, I thought I was just being a wuss. I thought I was just being a wimp. Like, and it's like, and then I related back the story, about when I was 19, and then the 3 years of healing that went into that and all of that, and how I learned to think very differently about the situation and everything, and look to find the positive in it, and look to go ahead and get more positive out the negative. And I said to him, I said, I'm thankful that that happened. And he looked at me and he's like, what? I said, I'm thankful it happened. He said, in all my years of counseling, I've never had anybody say that. I said, no, I'm not stupid. Like, if I could be the person I am today, if my wife could be the person she is, and we could have the same marriage, like, if we could have all of those things without going through it, I'm not stupid. Like, for sure, for sure, I wouldn't want it to happen. But I don't think I can do that. I think that's delusional thinking. I think that's an illusion. I don't think that's possible to do that. And so he's like, that's just crazy. And so what's true healing? It's where if you could go back in time, you wouldn't change it because of all of the benefit that comes from it. And I think, like, for me, I think that a lot of the medication, alcohol, weed, just everything, I think that harms the healing process. I think it makes it, like, in the moment, like living in the moment. It's like yes, it makes me feel better for sure in the moment. It makes me feel better for sure. I'm looking for something, I can never find it. That the line, and so it's like the future and the past in the moment. And so in the moment, it's like I want to feel better in the moment, but in feeling better in the moment, like Jonathan said, drinking is stealing tomorrow's happiness. Like, very profound. It's like, whoa. I mean, I don't know if he came up with that himself or if he heard that somewhere or something, but it's like, if you go through the pain and the brain has this natural capacity to heal in crazy ways. Like we've talked about in other podcasts, where, in the Israeli military, they don't have PTSD. They see some pretty messy stuff. So how do they not have PTSD? I mean, some theorize it's because they tell people everybody has to be, boys, girls, everybody has to be, I don't know, a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. And they tell people, you're going to see some really messy stuff that will mess up your brain totally. And then you're going to get out and you'll be fine. The brain has this massive ability, to heal. And that's the thing I love about my therapist, Beth Smith. She's very different. It's almost like a lot of the therapists, it's like, to have you in therapy for a long time, it's like, tell people what they want to hear so they feel good right now. And they say, wow, you're a great therapist. But how many therapists tell you what you don't want to hear? I mean, Beth does. So it's like she's forcing my brain to heal faster. It's not, she doesn't have the constrictions that, most other psychologists or psychiatrists, whatever she is, PhD, and she got like 3 of them. I don't know what it is, but she's not like most where it's going to take you a long time to heal. No, you can heal right now. It's your choice. It's not like, well, you have to have medication. It's not that. I mean, she's not opposed to it. It's just, it's your choice. What do you want to do? Do you want to heal fast or do you want to heal slow, Mark? If you want to heal fast, then your brain has the capacity to do that. It's your choice. You can choose if you want to do it.
I
And
think
so,
that sometimes I don't always want to heal from all areas because those areas are what drive me. Um, so like, John's death or some of the trauma that I've endured or some of the breakups I've gone through, I don't fully want to heal from that so I can take what I believe that I've done wrong in those situations or could have done better, and I hold those deep within myself because it's like this fire that drives me to just keep on kicking butt because part of me knows that like if I don't have something to make me feel alive, I'm just gonna crash and burn.
see, and I think I understand what you're saying and I get it. And I wouldn't disagree with you. Now, again, just because I'm not disagreeing doesn't mean I'm agreeing, but I wouldn't disagree with you. But what if you can heal and not forget? What if you can have total healing and never forget?
That would be interesting.
I mean, like it was interesting. My brother Ken, my youngest brother Ken, like day 3 after he spent with us in our family, and after Jonathan's death, and driving him back to his car, and I said, "Can you do me a favor?" He said, "Absolutely." I said, "Can you help me to never heal from Jonathan's death?" And he says, looked at me, and then he laughed. He says, "You're just weird." And what I meant is what I think you said. And that was 3.5 years ago, where it's like, I thought healing was just forgetting and moving on, but I don't think that's healing at all. I think that's just stupid. That's just not right. It's not how the brain was. It's like almost like we're forcing ourselves into disassociation, but nor is healing feeling the pain. Like, it's okay. I hope I cry for the rest of my life at times when I think about Jonathan. And so, like the trauma, the first time I was introduced about a year ago to a trauma anniversary with a young woman who was raped. And she said, it was on her birthday. And it was, this is a trauma anniversary. And I thought, is that good? Is that healthy? I mean, like, you think of anniversaries as being good things. I don't know if she was thinking of that being a good thing. And it's like, I heard for her, one, that it happened. And two, I wondered if it was continuing to hold her hostage, that she was a slave. And, you know, there's a lot of benefits to being a slave. You are. Like, you don't have to really decide what to do in life. Somebody
Right.
tells you. You don't really have to provide for yourself. Somebody else provides for you. So there's a lot of benefits of being a slave. Now, don't take me out of context, but are we all slaves and we don't even know it? Are we slaves to our past? And so I don't know that we'll get to it in this one, Tim, but I had a very intense conversation with my youngest brother, Ken yesterday. Very intense. Like, holy cow. The you know, the house was shaking. And so, like, so I don't know. Did you have some other place you wanted to go with what we were talking about? Or I thought when I woke up this morning, does that connect in? Like, he was Jonathan's pastor, for 10 years. And I said, buddy, like, if you're a pastor, you're the youth pastor. It's a little church. You knew him. And it's like, do you see how you have some responsibility for his death? He's like, I don't. I'm like, okay. Like, I'm not angry. It's like, I just think that he would heal if he did. And then he asked a friend, and his friend went ahead and surprise, surprise, agreed with him. He's like, I don't know how your brother could hold you responsible. It's like, well, like you were a pastor for 10 years. You were his youth pastor for 10 years and an uncle. And so if you don't take any ownership, then what you're saying to yourself mentally is I had no impact. Those 10 years, no impact. No impact as an uncle, because you can't just take the good and say, well, I helped him, but then I have no responsibility. Like that's mental illness right there. It just makes a lot of sense. But
I
it's
think
like,
a lot of people want to take credit for the good, but not the bad. So when someone's doing great, they're like, yeah, I helped them with that. But when someone's doing poorly or something bad has happened, they're like, oh, that's on them. And it's like, why take credit for the good, but not the bad?
see, and this is where, like, my mom said, Mark, you have an issue against pastors. And I'm like, do I, Mom? Like, do I? Like, maybe she's right. Maybe she's not. Maybe I just see, maybe I just see pastors in a little different light. Like, it's like when a marriage, when they go ahead, like Pastor Dale Williams, like he went ahead and was Jonathan's pastors for 15 years. And when he called and he said, I'm sorry for your son's death, for your loss. And he said it like 3 times, your son. He wouldn't say Jonathan. And I feel bad for him, because I think like he couldn't take any ownership of it. And my brother Ken could, and I just feel bad because I'm like, this is not going to work. And when you see pastors and you see, like, there was somebody who, committed suicide, I think soon after we left. And I hurt for his wife. There's a man, a good Christian guy. He had 3 kids at Emmanuel, and he committed suicide. And it's like, did Dale go ahead and say, like, I was in counseling. He was like, it's not a massive church. Like, you're responsible for your sheep. So when your sheep die, do you take any ownership? And probably not. And it's just like, and so with my brother Ken yesterday, I felt bad for the guy. Like, I thought, like, we did another podcast and I thought I was very gentle with him. I mean, and I said, we were talking, he called me later and said, hey, if you need to talk, I said, I hope you see or realize that, I hope that see that I was very gentle. He said, were you? Like, he asked me something and then he switched. I mean, this expressive analytic, it drives me, it's exhausting. It's like he can't see the big picture. It's like he's blind. Like, what blinded him? And he reminds me a lot of my 2 other brothers, where it's like, I don't know. It's just like Ben asked me when we were in Tennessee on vacation. He says, so Dad, your 2 brothers and Dale Williams and, some of the other people, Jim Bontrager, and do you miss them in your life? Do you miss that they're out? I'm like, I really don't. I really don't. He's like, really? I said, no. And then I got to thinking about it, and then I slept on. I got up the next morning. I said, Ben, I do miss them, but I don't miss their stupidity. I don't miss, I don't miss. I mean, they inspired these things. It's like, and what's common about them all is, and that was one of the things yesterday. I said to Ken, my brother, I said, these are my feelings. And he said, it's not true. And I'm like, you're the one that told me my feelings were important. It's just, but so did he tell me my feelings so I could go down to his level, and where feelings just govern everything? Like, my feelings are everything. And so I don't miss their entitlement. And Dale Williams, entitlement is self-righteousness and his victimhood. I don't miss that about them. And so there's a pattern. And it's like, I wonder, like my dad said, Grandpa Boersma said, It seems like when you get older, it's magnified, either the really good or really the bad. And so, my dad, he had a sense of entitlement and self-righteousness and victimhood. And, I saw that and it was okay. I saw my mom being something very different, very close to death. So it's like I just shredded my brother Ken, and I thought, is he ever going to talk to me again? And he might not. And I'm like, it's okay. If he doesn't, it's okay. It's just like, how can he not? How can he not? Like, he makes a boneheaded thing, and he did with you. And then he was so like, he cried, and he was like, cried and cried, and so, oh my gracious, he was so sorry. And you were very gracious and you accepted it. Do I think he's sincere? I think he is, as best as he can be sincere. Like, as best as he can be sincere, but it's like, why don't you see it? Like, why don't you see? Why do you have to dig in? Why do you have to get locked? Like, why do people get locked? Like, why don't they just say, like he said, hey, because he's created, like, man, a lot of conflict within the family. And it was interesting where it's like, Mark, I have to be so careful with your family members. It's like, really? Like, it's not his fault. It's my fault. And if it's not my fault, then it's my kid's fault. It's not his fault. It's like, I feel bad for him. I do. What he's going through in the divorce after 30 years. I mean, I get it. Like, I do. I really do. But it's like, I just feel bad. Like, he and Jason and Melissa, and he just blew up everything. But he doesn't take even an ounce of, like, no responsibility. So he does the same thing again. Mark, do you want me to help? No, Ken, I don't. Do not help. What does he do? He calls Jason. And his rationale, like, in his own mind, his brain went into overdrive, and he started like, well, I mean, I said, Ken, not to do something. You asked, do you want help? No. Well, I wasn't helping you. I was helping Jason. I wanted to see if the last time you did that, Ken, you mucked up everything. Or what are you thinking, you poor soul? Like, well, I it was, so you weren't trying to help me. No, I wasn't. I mean, with Melissa, she didn't have an understanding. So I went ahead and, I thought that I could give her some understanding. And it's like, so you were trying to help me. I mean, I asked you not to help. So he's all twisted. He's all bent all over the place. The poor guy I just hurt for him. And it's like, when I say stuff like, Ken, you haven't changed in the last 20 years. Like at Emmanuel, when you were a pastor, you got locked. You think you're self-righteous. You think you and Dale Williams know so much. But is Dale Williams really a golly Christian man? I don't know. I'm not judging. I'm just saying he won't talk. I walk into the church and he calls the police for what? And he makes up stuff. And then he shares that with Ken. And then Ken buys into it. And they both, it's like they get together. It's like, and it's like, and if you're watching this and you think, man, Mark's really worked up, I'm really not. I'm really not. Like, it's like, you sounded worked up. That's because I have to do drama. Like on podcasting, you got it. Otherwise, people don't listen. And with Ken, especially, the poor guy's dramatic. And then I just absolutely let it rip on him. Just absolutely let it rip. He's like, do you want me to hang up on you? I don't care, Ken, if you hang up. It doesn't matter. Go ahead. And he said, you say you don't like drama, but do you see how you control it? I mean, all he had to do was just go, Mark said, I asked Mark, do you want to get involved? He was very clear, no, don't. It's like, I don't know. Maybe. No, it wasn't that. It was, no, don't. And what does he do? He gets involved. And then he locks in, and then he becomes the 9Ds. And it's like, this is not going to go well for him. It just won't. My heart breaks for him, but it's like nothing can do. It's like a 6x6. It's like a 4x4. Whack him upside the head, and he still doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it. He doesn't learn. And on the podcast yesterday, it's like Elaine says something to him. Like, I think but he doesn't listen to her. It's like, do you listen to anybody? I mean, he listens to the people who tell him what he wants to hear. I don't know. He's just strange, but he's not. That's normal. I can see in him, this is normal. And I think, I don't think he's healed. I don't think he knows how broken he is. Well, we're all broken. Like, yeah, we're all broken. I mean, just the default. Do you think you're broken? Yes and no. You're just like everybody else. Are you, Ken? Are you sure? Because I'm not so sure you got it. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Beth says that, these podcasts are good therapy for me.
It's good. That is good.
I mean, I keep thinking there's got to be an answer. Like, there's got to be an answer. It's so close. I see these patterns. He's not the only one. There's multiple. Maybe we can get your mom and my wife on, because it seems like she made a breakthrough in November. And it's like, how did she do that? What's the reverse engineering of it? Like, how can she help other people?
Right.
I don't know. Anything else you got, sir?
No, sir. Gotta go figure out car battery situation.
Cool. All right. If you're listening to a rebroadcast of this, I mean, for sure, join the Life GPS mobile app. So do that, because then you'll be assigned a mentor for this group, and that you're going to get a lot more out of the group. So you sit and listen to these, podcasts. Hopefully you're entertained. Hopefully you're entertained. Hopefully there's something meaningful where you're like, that's something I need to think about, for myself. You can submit questions, all of those type of things. If you have any questions, connect with the individual who invited you to participate in today's session, or you can call toll free 888-230-2300, outside the US 630-393-9909. Always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.